Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and it's crazy that we can talk about the 2022 season and it not be that far away. 2021 is nearly over. It's time to start making some videos about 2022, and the first one is talking about some youngsters that I'm keen to see play in 2022. So we're going to be doing a bit of a list. It's not really a list where it's like 1 to 5. There is going to be 5 players, but it's in no particular order, and it doesn't necessarily have to be rookies either. I've just kind of picked out 5 youngsters. I think all of them actually played some NRL at some point. So some of them are cemented into first grade. Others are sort of trying to find their way into NRL. By the way, I'm keen to see how they go in 2022. Now, before we get into the video, I just need to mention the sponsor of this video, and it's come at a great time. I'm wearing the Christmas hat. I know it's leaving it late, but you can also pick this up for Christmas, maybe even get it a little bit after Christmas. But the sponsor of today's video is Manscaped. Ho ho ho, gentlemen. The holidays have come early this year as Manscaped have a gift that keeps on trimming. Santa's beard isn't so appealing when it's coming out of your trousers, and that's why Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming, have you covered this holiday season. It's time to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Get a gift for yourself and your significant other. You get what I mean, right? Like, surely, like down there, that's a gift for us, cleans it all up, and then, the gift for them because they don't have to deal with that. Gift for both of us, you know what I mean? But seriously, go get yourself the Performance Package 4.0, which includes the famous Lawnmower 4.0, which has a skin-safe technology to protect your nuts and is also waterproof so you can use it in the shower. So long story short, your balls are as safe as Nathan Cleary's contract at the Panthers. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver in it as well. And you're probably thinking, what the hell is that? Well, basically, it's an anti-chafing deodorant, moisturizer, and toner. So earlier when I was talking about it being a gift for your partner, it's kind of what I meant. The hygiene bundle also comes with some anti-chafe boxes as well. So you've got the whole deal down there. No chase will be happening. Also included in this package is the Weed Whacker, which is an ear and nose trimmer because nobody really wants nose hairs. I've never seen anyone who said, oh, I don't really mind it. Everybody hates them. So all of that in itself is quite impressive. But if you want to impress everyone a little bit more, you can go ahead and pick up the signature scent of Manscaped and also me while I'm at it. It's a signature scent of me and Manscaped. And by signature scent, I mean their cologne. Now, everything that I've been talking about, all of this, it's all available in Australia, New Zealand, England, you name it, it's there. It's basically everywhere, and that's why there's 4 million men who trust Manscaped to keep their trees trimmed and their ornaments polished. See, it's Christmas time. We've got to mention some Christmas things. To go have a look at what I've been talking about and pick up some of these deals, go to manscaped.com and use code Mr. Luke. It gets you 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Trust me, your balls will thank you, and so will Santa. He'll definitely be proud of you. Alrighty, now we've got the intro out of the way, we can crack on with this list. So the first player we're going to be talking about is from the New Zealand Warriors, Rhys Walsh. I think everybody would have him on this list. He nearly played for State of Origin, nearly played for Queensland, I should say, this previous season after maybe about 5-6 games. I feel like actually it could have been a little bit more than that, but he did have a breakout year in 2021. Can he continue on in 2022? That is the real question. That's probably going to be the question for most of these guys because, like I said, they're not really rookies. They're guys who have performed for quite a bit of time in 2021, maybe even seasons beforehand. But Rhys Walsh is someone that I can look at and say pretty confidently that I feel like he's going to progress in 2022. I know there's that little bit of sort of doubt over whether he gets found out, and even about all these players. Do they get found out in 2022 in their second year? Is it going to be second year syndrome? But for Rhys Walsh, I'm pretty confident that he'll excel, whether it's at fullback, whether it's at 5'8", halfback, wherever they play him, I feel like he's going to perform. I feel like he's just that sort of guy. Kind of reminds me of maybe like Ben Barber back in the day where, he's a fullback, but we can chuck him in other positions and he'll do a job for you. At the moment, he's playing fullback for the Warriors. I think he's going to be the first choice fullback for quite some time. Now that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is gone. Throughout the season, obviously, they were sort of shifting him around. Roger would play wing for a little bit, and then he'd go back to fullback. Rhys Walsh would play in the halves a little bit, but now this year, there's no doubt about it. Rhys Walsh is the number 1 for the Warriors. Is he going to be the number 1 for Queensland? Probably not the first choice, but he's definitely going to be in the mix, I reckon. Obviously, nearly played last year. If it wasn't due to injury, he would have been playing. Now, I don't know if that would have been a good or bad thing for his career, but obviously the fact that he's in the mix for the Queensland number 1 position, I think it says a lot about Rhys Walsh in the first couple of games too. So he's an obvious talent. Can't believe the Broncos let him go. They don't usually let players go that they want to keep. So the fact that he got out of there, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up at the Dolphins, but right now, the Warriors have a fantastic player in Rhys Walsh. He's got all of the skills that you want to see. He's just one of those guys, like I said, reminds me of the Ben Barbers and like your Milfords and all those guys who are just highlights machines. Now, I think Rhys Walsh could be way better than all of those guys, to be honest with you. He just needs to make sure that he sort of gets secure under the high ball, because that seemed to be a little bit of a problem in 2021, but he's got a whole off-season, and we've seen plenty of players be pretty crap under the high ball and then go into the next season and be pretty rock solid. So I think Rhys Walsh can do it. A lot of practice, and I think he'll get there. So that's why he's on this list. Now, the next player we're going to be talking about, I think he'd be on a lot of these lists as well. From the Sydney Roosters, we're talking about Joseph Sawali. Now, I could have talked about a host of players from the Roosters. They've got a lot of good young players. We've seen from them pretty much the last season where they played with all of their youngsters, played with their New South Wales Cup side. They've got a lot of good players. Sam Walker's there. They've got Verrills there. They've even got guys like Nat Butcher, Egan Butcher, all those sort of guys who are quite young. They have a lot of good young players, but at the top of that list is Joseph Sawali. Now, in the previous season, I saw players talk about him, and obviously he was the 17-year-old that they got the exception for. Barely played, but he did play NRL. So they did make a big hoo-ha about whether they can actually get him to play and make the exception, all that sort of stuff. And like I said, he barely did play. So it kind of seemed like there was a lot of hype around him for not too much. And even when he did play, it wasn't like you got in there and you're like, wow, look at this dude. But I will say, for a guy who was 17, 18, when he did play, you could definitely tell the quality was there. Even when you see him play in reserve grade in the few games they're allowed to play, you can just tell that there's quality there. He might not be destroying players, he might not be running through them, but you can definitely tell there's something about this kid. And they're not going to put this much money into him for no reason, especially the Roosters. There's definitely going to be something there for Sawali. They talked about how professional he is, especially for like a 17, 18-year-old. I was just talking about Rhys Walsh, how talented he is, but obviously he got himself in trouble over the off-season. Sawali seems like a dude who's just super switched on and wants to be the ultimate professional. And that's coming from all the Roosters players. I remember Josh Morris talking about just how professional he actually was, especially for a youngster. So I can see Sawali being one of those dudes who's just so clean cut, be a good sort of person they can market around the game. So I hope Sawali has a great season in 2022. Got all the attributes. I think he'll find himself on the wing. Could possibly find himself in the centres. But Joey Manu has got one centre position locked up. The Roosters have a host of backs all of a sudden. Last year they're a little bit iffy in the backs. So Ikevalu and stuff. Obviously he's gone. Brett Morris is gone. And Josh Morris is gone. Instead they've got Momorowski there. Obviously they got Joey Manu. They still got Daniel Tupou there. They're sort of just a wing spot up for grabs. And I think Sawali's going to get it. Kevin Nguyen was just signed as well, but I think Sawali, with them looking to the future as well, like a lot of people retiring for the Roosters as of late, haven't really signed too many players. I know Brandon Smith, but with Sawali, I think he's going to be an absolute gun, an absolute weapon. And like I said earlier, they've invested way too much money in him for him to not play, really. So I think he's definitely going to be playing first grade this year. Whether he plays the whole season, I don't know, but I'm definitely excited to see how he goes, and I think he can line up the NRL in 2022. Now to the third player on this list, and I've just noted that so far, all these guys are backs. I promise that will change at some point, but the next player is also a back. It is Jaden Campbell, son of Preston Campbell at the Gold Coast Titans, cementing himself as the number one fullback at the club. They've got AJ Brimson there as well, so it does say a lot about Campbell, the fact that they are moving Brimson into the halves. I know it does help the fact that Brimson can play in the halves, so I'd say if Brimson couldn't play in the halves, you play Brimson at fullback. But the fact that he is versatile enough to chuck him in the halves and you can allow Campbell to play fullback, which is where they excelled. When they had Campbell in the side, they looked like a really, really good side. He was getting himself into the right positions. I was really impressed with Jaden Campbell. Now, the problem for him is that I feel like he could be one of those players who could fall into that category of second-year syndrome. He's sort of a guy who's not really well built or anything like that. He's pretty silky, but he doesn't really remind me. It's like Rhys Walsh. He nearly got picked for Origin. I feel like Jaden Campbell, he's nowhere near that level. Even like Sawali, you can tell he's like physically good. He put on a lot of weight apparently in the off-season. He's bulked up a lot. With Jaden Campbell, he definitely needs to bulk up a lot. Whether he can do that in just one off-season, I don't know, but I think he's going to have a red-hot crack in 2022. He's super quick. Like I said, he finds himself in all the perfect positions, which is just something you just can't teach. You just got to have it or you don't, I think, and he definitely has it. So we saw quite a lot of tries where the ball was just sort of just bouncing around and just happened to bounce into his hands, and that's something they definitely want, and that's not something that every fullback has. So it is handy when you have a player like that who, when there's a line break, oh, there's Jaden Campbell. Oh, I'm just putting in a random kick, just willy-nilly. Oh, the bounce of the ball, there's Jaden Campbell. Oh, there's sort of an offload happening, nothing's really happening, Jaden Campbell hits a gap. That's the sort of player he is. I really rate Jaden Campbell. Like I said, I feel like he can fall into that second season category, but fingers crossed, hopefully that is not the case, and I think they've got a good enough side around them as well for him to avoid that. I think half the battle with these second-year syndrome players is they play for for shitty teams. Honestly, like they play for some of the worst teams, and then all of a sudden, all eyes are on them because the rest of the team sucks. Titans aren't really the case. They've got a really good side around them. They've got Dave Fifita. Talking about youngsters, talk about him, talk about Tino. They got a lot of good players in that side. I think as long as Brimson sort of settles himself in the halves, secures his spot there, I think we'll see Jade Campbell at fullback for a long time. Even if Brimson doesn't work out in the halves, I don't really know where you go from there, but you're definitely going to have Jade Campbell in the side in 2022. Now to the fourth player of this list. I told you they weren't going to be all backs. And the fourth player we're going to be talking about is from the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. You can talk about a whole bunch of players. Talk about Tommy, talk about Benny. You can talk about all the Trbojevic boys, but that's not what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the second rower, the blind second rower, Josh Schuster. Now, I actually didn't realize how young he was. I knew he was young, but when you actually watch him play, it's sort of easy to forget that he is super, super young. He's younger than a lot of these guys, and even some of the other players in the league, you look at them as young second rowers, and you sort of go, oh yeah, they're alright. And then you see Schuster, and you go, oh yeah, but he's got a couple of years in them. No, he does not. No, he does not. I think he's 20, 21, something along the lines of that. For him to play as good as he did in the second row, that is scary. That is seriously scary. Now, it's got all the skills of a half because that's where he played his whole life. And we've seen a lot of these guys who start off as halves players and come through the 20s and even sort of go into NRL as a halves player and then bulk up a lot. They seem to do quite well. Your Wade Grahams, your Ryan Madisons, I'm thinking of those sort of guys. But Schuster, he's come straight into first grade as a second rower. And I think that sort of helped out well for him. Honestly, when they play him in second row, I thought they were not desperate, but I looked at that and I went, this guy's been hyped up as a 5'8". You got 4 on there, he's going to be busted. Surely they just play him at 5'8" at some point, or they have him come off the bench, be a utility. But I didn't realise how big-bodied he actually is. He definitely has the second row mould, and he's got all the skills of the half. So it works out so well, especially with Tom Trbojevic there. You need a guy who can sort of get in the ball, and Schuster can do that. Because he's actually so dangerous himself, he can attack, he can defend pretty well as well, which is quite good for the halves, even in terms of going forward. If he ends up moving into the halves, we've seen he can be damaging just running the ball and also defending as well. But the fact that you've got a guy like Jake Trbojevic in the side, and then you've got Schuster as well with those silky ball handling skills, I think it really works well for Tom Trbojevic. I know ball playing definitely isn't his strong suit. Obviously running, he can do it, but obviously running is his main strength. So the fact that you can just get him into some good spots, I think it really, really helps Manly. Now, honestly, I feel like if Manly had just like a gun centre outside of him, I think they'd be off to the races. They would be cheering Manly. They'd be absolutely killing it. But Schuster, I really rate him. I think he's a chance of, not necessarily this year, but in the next couple of years, I can easily see him being in this New South Wales side. He definitely has the potential there. If you're looking in terms of like FIFA ratings or potential, Schuster's right up there. He's already shown enough, and I think he can definitely keep progressing. Obviously, like I said, I keep touching on it, but he just has all the skills of the halves players, and that's what you really want in your second rows these days. Gone are the days where your forwards are just battering rams. You need to have ball playing skills, and Schuster is right at the top of that list, and he's only played one season. So fingers crossed he doesn't fall into the second year syndrome category, but I think he should be right. Manly fans, I think you got yourself a great player. Add in Ben Trbojevic, add in Tom Trbojevic, Jake Trbojevic, all these other youngsters into the side. I think you got a bright future. Now moving on to the last player of this list, my personal favourite one too. Fifth player is from the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, used to be the Penrith Panthers. Going to be talking about Matty Burton. Now, once again, kind of similar to Schuster, because he just won a premiership and played so well, and honestly was one of the better players in the grand final, and also just even throughout the year, there was plenty of times they depended on Matt Burton, and he stood up in that centre role, whether it's in defence, whether it's in attack. He's just got that great left foot step, bang, and he's so quick as well, which I think is an underrated sort of thing to talk about Burton. They talk about his size and he's really good in the centres, but what makes him really good is he's so explosive. He is so quick, and he's a big body as well. Kind of reminds me a lot of Jack Whiten. Don't know if it's the left foot. Don't know if because he is a left footer purely, that's why he reminds me of Jack Whiten. But he just has that big body, and I think he's got a lot more skills than Jack Whiten, to be honest with you. But yeah, Matty Burton had a fantastic season in the centres for the Panthers. Now moving across to my Bulldogs. Team who came last, team who's made a lot of signings, and he's going to be playing in the halves. Now, I will say, when he played in the halves for Penrith, he didn't exactly set the world on fire, but we've seen some reserve grade games where he's played really well. Obviously, he's came and filled in when majority of the team was out for Penrith, and he's taken on these NRL sides, and yeah, Tyrone May is his halves partner, so I think that says a lot about Matt Burton, that they were able to get some wins. But I sort of think back to the game against Melbourne, where it was him and Jerome Luai as the halves combination, and they got the job done against arguably the best side in the comp at the time, I will say. So Matt Burton definitely can get the job done. I want to see whether he can progress, though, into being a top-class halves player. We know he can do it in the centres, but the question mark over him is whether he's just a good centre. He's just a good centre, or great centre, I should say. Dally M, centre of the year. He's a great centre, but is he just going to be a good 5'8"? We're going to get the best out of Matt Burton. He's going to be in the centres, he's going to be in the halves, he's going to be in another position, who knows? But for me, I think Matt Burton, I think he can make a real dent on this comp in 2022, whether it's a halfback 5'8", even the centres, but I think he's definitely going to be in the halves. I can 100% say he's going to be in the halves. Everybody knows that. That's why he signed with the Bulldogs. Otherwise, you just stay at the Panthers. It's not like he signed for overs either in the Bulldogs, which is a good move for the Bulldogs. But in terms of his halves partner, Averillo, he's another young gun I'd like to see, whether it's Kyle Flanagan as well. I don't know who it's going to be. Probably Averillo. Even Brandon Waken's there. All these guys are quite young. I think Matty Burton is capable of stepping up. I'm not going to say he's going to be like captain material, but I really hope he can be. I really hope he can be. I hope he can be, a 10-year player for the Bulldogs. But in terms of him in 2022, I definitely can see him having a great year. I don't know about these talks. There's a lot of people like, oh, Matt Burton going to win Dally M and, 5A of the year and all this sort of stuff. I don't buy into that, but I think he can be solid. As long as he can be consistent in 2022, Bulldogs fans will be happy. Anyways, that's where I'm going to wrap up this video. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure you go ahead and leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also, make sure to follow me on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. My Facebook's Mr. Luke, but everything else, including Snapchat, including TikTok, is Mr. Luke and YT. Also, go ahead and cop some of the merch. I'm wearing one of the Christmas designs right now. Probably a little bit too late for the Christmas designs, but go ahead and check out some of the rest of them. The link to my spread shop is in the description below. Go ahead and pick up some if you own. There's plenty of designs on there, so I really rate them, and I think you will too. Speaking of rating things, I really rate the sponsor of this video. Already talked about it earlier, but we're going to mention it once again. The sponsor of this video is Manscaped. I have a code for free shipping and 20% off. It's Mr. Luke. Go ahead and use it. Go pick up the Lawnmower 4.0. Go pick up the Performance Package 4.0. I know Christmas is here, and like I said, it's probably too late to really sort of pick up things for Christmas, but hey, treat yourself. Treat yourself, maybe use the Christmas money, go pick up some Manscaped products. Trust me, your balls will thank you, and so will Santa. Like I said, I know it's late, but Santa will definitely thank you, I promise. Anyways, that's where I'm wrapping up this video. How good is it to be talking about footy in 2022? It's been a long off season, it definitely has, so it's nice to be able to talk about 2022, not in like the future, as in it being right here. So I'm excited to see what 2022 holds, not only for the NRL, but also for my channel. So stay tuned for more content, and I'll see you in the next one. See yous.